Let's talk a little bit about what's in the book to do with hurricane science. I've tried to boil it down so you can go through the section called Hurricane Science and understand exactly what they do at the National Hurricane Center, how advisories are put together, and how things like the cone work. And maybe that's a good topic to focus in on, because we've become so familiar here over the last few years with the cone. And what does the cone mean exactly? Well, guess what? It's changed over the years. In fact, it changed just this year. And so if you read the book, there's information on the cone that has to do with how they did it last year, and you have to go to hurricanealmanac.com and you get the update on how now it's done this year. The end effect is not much different. It's just the underlying rules are a little bit different. But it's all based on the average error in the National Hurricane Center forecasts going back 5 or 10 years. Previously it was 10 years, now it's 5 years. So what they do is they take every forecast that they've made over that period of time and they look at the average error at a certain time frame. So they say, okay, we made 150 forecasts for a storm 2 days from now. And then let's look at all those forecasts and see how far off we are and come up with an average error. So the cone is based on those average errors. The current cone, the way it works, is they say, let's draw a circle around that point where 2/3 of the time our forecast would be in that circle, that far from the point. And then they draw a cone table, all those circles, 72 hours, 48 hours, 36 hours, 24 hours, and 12 hours, and they draw a line around it, and that's how the cone is made. And when you get done doing all the math for that, it's about a 2/3 chance that the storm center will stay inside the cone. So when you see a cone, that's what you're going to be thinking about is, okay, 2/3 of the time that center stays inside the cone the whole track. About 1/3 of the time it might wander outside the cone on any given forecast. So that'll give you an idea if the cone is aimed toward you or your place of business or your residence is inside the cone. That's about the odds of where the storm might go. It doesn't say anything about the specific odds of your location. It just talks about the odds of the overall cone. There's another cone, and we talk about that in the Hurricane Almanac, that has to do with the probability of specific spots along the coast actually have hurricane-force winds or having tropical storm-force winds. That's a different kind of cone, and again, that's a little more technical, and that's covered in the Hurricane Almanac. It's on the National Hurricane Center website. You can go and look at it, but again, it gets a little bit more technical, and I think you'll probably want to go through that carefully if you want to try and understand a little bit more about the specific odds as opposed to the general odds of where the storm is exactly going to go. But there's a lot to know about the background of how hurricane advisories are put together and the details of how these things work, and that's all in the Hurricane Almanac. And as I said, especially with the cone, the update is on hurricanealmanac.com.